Okay, thank you. Hello, hello. Similar to last time, I'll let you guys just introduce yourself, say a little sentence or two or three, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, Jim Gunning. I am currently managing director for Rescue Water. Hopefully you guys saw some benefit from that last night, or better yet, this morning. Just to give you a little more background, I actually was with this big fella right here. Paul and I we ran sports marketing for Red Bull for 10 years back in the day.
Oh yeah, some good stories. We'll talk about them later. Paul Crandall, Vice President of Marketing for GoPro. It's so nice to be here in Aspen. It's in the foliage go and being back with a lot of great friends and smiling faces. Just stoked to be part of this. Thank you.
Russ Rowan, Senior Vice President, Sales and Global Marketing at Spyder. Been with the brand for 4 years and basically was brought on to help reestablish the brand that was kind of failing, and just bring it up to where it is right now.
Sweet. So the topic of today's discussion is brand, and I want to open it up with the title of a forthcoming book by a newfound friend of mine named Mark Echo. You guys probably know he's a street artist, graffiti artist, went from painting on t-shirts to building $1 billion clothing brand in Echo Unlimited. And the title of his book that's coming out in a couple of days here is Selling You Without Selling Out. And I think if I'm going to address the elephant in the room, there has always been this struggle between core markets like skiing, snowboarding, action sports in general, and the man. And this, the idea that there is this conduit through which you can pass and achieve success, whatever that is, whether it's eyeballs or dollars or whatnot, that's always really challenging for an endemic culture. And so I think we spend a lot of time talking around that, but I think it'd be really valuable. And again, my job and what I hope we can do is deliver some real value, some serious takeaways for you to think about this in a way that's less acerbic than it has been put to you in the past. And I think the couple of brands that are up here are representative of brands that have been able to be successful at that. There are not too many of them. And I think one of the things that Russ is going to be able to highlight is sort of a failure of a brand in Spyder is, it had a certain stature and then it sort of crashed and burned, and you were brought in to bring it back. So that's the landscape that we're going to be talking in, and how to sell you, in this case, your brand, whether you're an independent artist, a small apparel brand within action sports, or one of the largest, the Burtons or the Nikes, for example, without selling out. So, introductory question for you, my good man. And I'm going to go back to some Red Bull days. Red Bull is a classic example of a brand that came into existence to find a category that didn't exist, and has been able, in my humble opinion, relative to all other companies, been able to maintain that authenticity and that relationship with its core, yet be one of the largest beverage companies in the world. Can you make this whole segment really short and we can walk off the stage by giving us the answer?
Yeah, let's see. No, I mean, one thing that I think one of the best, or the most important thing that Red Bull did before they established their brand was actually establishing their brand. And they did it, in a manner that is so rock solid that the comfort level of how they move forward is, they're very secure in their decision making. So as a brand, they're not schizophrenic in how they make their decisions. It's just a straight line, very continuous, and the voice and the tone is the same.
I think that is something that my time in action sports I found waning, or it was serious work that there really wasn't time for, because the creatives behind the brand, for example, always just wanted to do the next cool thing, and then there was this fabric that was missing, which is the cultural fabric and the blueprint for the brand. So I think when I was talking to Paul earlier, actually the four of us were talking, but Paul, you spoke specifically about this, is that there is a set of qualities of Red Bull that you guys literally had written out, and in order to do something or to work with an individual, had to check a certain number of those boxes, and that as sort of a governing framework. And if you're new to building brands, that shit sounds like sophomoric, right? Like, oh, I really know, I intuit if I'm gonna. Yeah, but as soon as your brand gets bigger than you, your brand is 2 people, 10 people, or 100 people, or 1,000 people. How do they keep that checklist in mind? So tell me a little bit about Red Bull's approach.
Well, yeah, I think any brand that is on fire and going places, there's a lot of bright, shiny objects that walk in the room in the office every day. You know, things you want to do or they feel good or your team wants to go out and do. It's a concert, it's a musician, it's a, you know, a professional football player, and they want to do something with you, and it sounds really fun. But you always got to go back to, like, what is our objective for the year? You know, what are we really focused on, and is this something that's going to really affect that overarching objective? So having that personality list. What is our brand personality? As Jim was talking to, you know, it's, you know, for Red Bull, it's witty, it's professional, it's, you know, relaxed. You know, about 8-10 different things we'd look at every time we do something and go, okay, does it fit? Does it fit the brand? Yes or no. If it was no, we worked on the art of saying no. You really have to force yourself to say no.
There's a great tweet right there. Like, a great brand focuses on the art of saying no. Like, that's a valuable takeaway. Thank you.
Yeah, and going back to the personality, if you do go forward with it, it's something that does fit now. Great, that fits. Does it fit this year? Does it fit towards that overarching objective or set of initiatives that we're reaching out to do? So, you know, focus is critical in building a brand over time. And your objectives are going to change every year, but as long as you stick to them and you don't get too far off the freeway or the guiding path,
it gives you a nice comfort level in which to operate. And so, and there's some gray area. I mean, I think Nick's presentation was great in terms of they're so comfortable with who they are as a brand that they're able to go to Pottery Barn and do a betting line, which, you know, it's the last thing you'd think of from Burton, but they're so, you know, comfortable with who they are as a brand. It's like, hey, yeah, we can experiment, but this is who we are, our foundation, and it works.
Got it. And so ultimately I'm detecting there's a filter. And so for all of you folks out there who are thinking about your own brands right now, like, what is the filter? If you can't name it, and more importantly, if everyone in your organization doesn't have crystal clarity around what that filter is as to whether or not something is good or bad or appropriate or not, I think that's a really, really important takeaway. And I think it's, you know, if we apply this filter mentality to the Spider example, we'll see that they actually had a bad filter at a certain part in their history, which caused them to, you know, to be at a place of near bankruptcy.
Yeah, it was terminal. Actually, it was pretty toxic what was going on. One thing we had to do is find out what it was for the first 6 months that myself and the president and a couple of other guys stepped in, rebuild the brand. Really, the only thing that I really had going for it was the power of that buck. And that was really it. So we basically held forums, roundtable meetings, brought in all the staff independently, privately, you know, as a group as well, and just tore the brand apart and really had to get back to the real roots and the foundation of what really was the success stories of the brand and how legit it was back then, and how can we bring some of those elements back into play, but alter it and tweak it slightly to rejuvenate everything. So it was interesting. I mean, you call it flushing the toilet or whatever, cleaning the valve, but you know, sometimes you have to look at that and break it down to the basics to rebuild.
Yeah, these are fundamentals. These are business fundamentals of brand building. And I found it interesting, Jim, that Rescue Water, like, that's what you guys are really doing right now. I use the idea that as soon as you try and talk to everyone, you end up talking to no one, because there's no such message that's relevant to all of us at a brand level. There's all kinds of human messages that are, sure, but from a brand perspective, if that brand tries to talk to everyone, they talk to no one.
Okay.
So you guys, interestingly enough, are right in the middle of trying to decide who you're talking to. So tell us a little bit about your exercise, the approach, and maybe highlight a few things.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's a daunting task when you have a blank piece of paper and there's literally no guideposts, and you're creating them yourselves. And so it's for us, obviously, a product that's tied into hangovers. I mean, not everybody drinks, but the
Everybody
usage
just
occasion, yeah. I mean, the opportunities and where we can take our brand it's almost limitless. And so we can't do it. We just can't tackle that. We have to narrow it and go deeper and make an impact, add value, and grow our brand through that audience. And so we are choosing areas where for instance, obviously the snow sports industry it's a perfect fit for us, the resort towns, the lifestyle and everything else. But we're looking at opportunities like weddings. It's not as sexy and glamorous maybe on the surface as being in snowboarding is, but hey, there's 2.1 million weddings, which means 2.1 million bachelor parties, 2.1 million bachelorette parties, 2.1 rehearsal dinners, and people let loose. It's a time of celebration, and it's a great place to discover our brand. So that's what we're doing. That exercise is where are we going to focus our brand and how are we going to get there?
You see, the next version is going to have a veil over it, so you have to lift the veil.
Yeah. I heard there's a multi-million-dollar wedding off the top of the mountain tomorrow. You gotta
Drive them up there, drive a couple kids, roll in.
That's a few cases of rescue water.
Awesome. So, Paul, I don't intend to just be cycling through you guys in a line, but it's just one thing is leading to another. And I feel like you had a lot of experience with Red Bull in building a brand, and then I'm sure it's not lost on anybody in the room, the similarities between what these guys are building at GoPro and the way that Red Bull did it. So my question to you is there a blueprint that these two companies have followed that is replicable? Because I think that's what you're all hopefully looking for, is like, who are the shining examples in my line of work and what are they doing right? So can you give me a roadmap? We talked about it a little bit earlier. I thought that there was some really cogent stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking to CJ about it. It's really simple, actually. It's getting, first you have to have a great product that's functional, and it's something people, not
You don't want to have to sell the Zune.
Yeah, Zoom.
Yeah.
They're great guys over at Zoom. I don't tag them. It's like coming up with a good product, number one. Number two, getting passionate people that you can trust to work around, people you want to work with every day and have fun coming to work. But then it's getting that product in the right people's hands. And when you get it in the right people's hands that are passionate about it, they're not bought and paid for, they come to you, right? The people that approach you are the best people to work with, because otherwise you're forcing what you want to do on them, and that's not really fair to anybody, and it's no fun. So the people that come to you, embrace that, let them run with your product, get it out there, and start spreading word of mouth, right? And when word of mouth happens, more people become intrigued in your product, make more money, eventually be able to afford things like advertising and bigger buildings and bigger budgets to go out and do the things that you do. And I think
Let me interrupt for 1 second. Fast forward to you. Now you're a multi-billion-dollar brand.
Yeah.
How do you sell you without selling out?
I was gonna hit that.
I just need to interrupt you.
Yeah, because sellout is, right? Sellout's another word for great success. And
This is the elephant in the room.
I mean, truly, it's like, oh, you sell out. Well, what, are you mad at me because we're making a lot of money? I mean, I'm sorry, but I think the key to that, the key to that is to always remember who got you there in the first place. And the magic is doing those little things that you did when you were a small brand, when you were just handing cans out of a backpack at X Games and throwing cool parties for the athletes and the kids on the floor at the retail space. Those are the people that help build the brand. So you always have to be there for them, and you have to continue doing those little things.
So you can still make a Super Bowl commercial and throw a party at the local skate park.
100%. It's how you do it, and making sure you have the people that are managing these lifestyle sports and these initiatives who get it. There's a lot of brands, they hire people that don't get it.
Russ, are you guys following this blueprint?
Yeah, to some extent, we, passion is everything. It's funny because my new marketing manager, year and a half, guy was a lawyer. Still is a lawyer. Helps us take the approach and push me back in line. But he's an extremely passionate individual. He had no experience inside the industry itself, but he had a lot to offer outside. And sometimes you really need to open that door and bring those people that are extremely passionate. What they do, they're paying for it. They go out and buy all this stuff to be on the mountain. We unfortunately, fortunate enough for us, get it for free and get to live that lifestyle, that experience. But I think you definitely have to keep an open door and be willing to look at other people's mindsets and be creative. And with our marketing department, we have this thing called the principles of progression. And what the brand DNA stands for. And that was the first thing that we did as a company when we decimated and tore it apart. We've got these 12 principles we live by. You walk up into the marketing and sales office and it's right there on the walls. And, as fast as we're moving and as short as the season is, we look at that wall and we really think about that, where we can explore but staying true to the core of who you are. But, venturing out and doing some unethical stuff,
So,
like weddings.
Yeah.
Right.
So the vision that some people had, I will venture, is those cheesy like leadership, like attitude is everything, and like a dolphin jumping over the rainbow. That's.
I thought you took those pictures.
I made hundreds from those, man. I made hundreds. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is, and this is sort of a grown-up approach to brands that don't necessarily have a grown-up feel. They're totally different things. You can have a brand that doesn't have a grown-up feel because you want to be rebellious or you want to have a certain personality that's against the man. It can be said for a whole industry. But there are fundamentals at work here, which is getting everybody on the same page. It doesn't matter if you're a magazine, an indie snow sports magazine, and has a staff of 10, or what's the staff? How many at GoPro now?
I think it's at 650 or something.
There you go, or 650. That understanding and having extreme clarity on where you're going, why you're here, what gets you up into work every day. If you don't have that it's not a set of rules, it's a set of guidelines, it's a checklist, and you got to be able to check most of the shit most of the time. If you don't have that in your brand, I guarantee you're going to wander.
Well, one thing that's interesting about that, as brands grow quickly, like we did at Red Bull and like we are at GoPro, we added 650. 500 of those people have been hired in the last year and a half. So when you grow that quickly and you've got people working in silos, and because naturally you're going to work in silos, you're going to have one person that's handling 5 different things. In 6 months, those 5 things become maybe divisions of the company or individual leaders themselves and have to go manage that. So getting everybody together to talk is not always the easiest thing to align on all of it. So we went through the same thing at Red Bull. We were all over the map. And you kind of need to be in your initial stages of growth. And as you slow down your head counts and as the brand really starts to tighten up and get those guiding principles that you're talking about, and you start going in that direction, it becomes easier to start getting those meetings together, those big company PowerPoints that everybody loves so much that says, this is where we're going. But that takes a while to get to.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen like that.
Well,
You still
when I
have
was-
a lot of people not.
Sure,
having
when I
great
was 20,
conversations.
I thought that was bullshit, though.
Right.
Because it's like bullshit corporate speak, and I think I have those very, very visceral memories of participating in hardcore action sports communities at their very root level, and just thinking like that. Oh man, this is it's destined for failure because now we've got a set of pillars, whatever, brand pillars.
Tent poles.
Yeah, our tentpole event is anyway.
It's funny because we went from 94 people and then down to 42 people, and we're back up to 87 people in 4 years. So you're bringing in the right people that are going to share that same vision, that same scope about growing.
What
Yeah.
caused Spider, and I'm going to use a strong word here, what caused Spider's failure?
Lack of innovation, lack of change, lack of experiencing, experimenting, lack of bringing people in with fresh ideas, getting too comfortable.
Right,
Complacency.
Yeah.
complacency.
Yeah.
So if we reference the last talk that Stephen gave, which I thought was brilliant, I hope he's still here in the room. There he is back there. Creativity underpins, is an underpinning fundament of risk, right? Because to make something is to put it out there. And when you're making something, you're taking something from nothing and putting it into existence. So it's a new thing.
Right.
And if you're not innovating, you're not tapping this sort of a consistent rebirth, a consistent newness. But it tends to happen in companies that have it good, and they just say, I don't want to change anything because what we did yesterday is working today. Therefore, it's going to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
So this is catastrophic.
Yeah.
We've seen it in all industries. And
I
so
call it drinking your own Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
You know, and if you drink too much of that Kool-Aid, you become really jaded with what's the true story out.
Is that why you guys don't
So-
drink Red Bull anymore?
I am too already.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, well, it's interesting too, in talking about innovation, when you compare a product like Red Bull, it doesn't change. It's the same every day versus the clothing, apparel world or the movies or being at that cutting edge and being able to, even GoPro technology is changing daily. Everything happens so fast. If you're not on your game, you're going to get left behind.
And communicating your brand in a different way within your consumer. And like, our world is like, we're seasonal. You guys are all year, but we're seasonal. So, that machine should never stop because that consumer is still out buying all year. So we have to continuously engage that consumer in the off season so that our doors, we're always cranking and keeping forward, which is why we did the deal with Audi, did the deal with Carlsberg. We're always experimenting, working on a deal with Macintosh Audio. Like, we got to keep that bug and keep the things going throughout the off season.
Got it.
One thing I was going to add to scaling and the brand and as it grows, it's really, really important to plan, obviously. And I don't think a lot of brands take the planning as seriously as they should sometimes and really get out in front of it. Starting a business planning cycle in July for the following year, sometimes it's even too late, right? So getting out in front of that and building those plans out and really getting detailed will make the execution and on all your activities so much better, and it makes it so much easier to say no to the bright, shiny objects.
Yeah.
And then as you do that and you roll those plans out, and now that we're a global brand, we've got distributors around the world and marketing folks around the world that we have to get those too. We have to drive those initiatives, and you have to you can't be everywhere physically, so you have to provide, as Spicoli said, the ultimate set of tools. And you've got to have, event guidelines and advertising guidelines and PR guidelines and how do we talk to the media. That stuff is super important because, your brand is your baby. And if you talk about passion, you got to protect that baby constantly. And if as you grow, you get so many people messing with your logo and what events you're going to do and how do they want to advertise, or they're going to make a print ad in Germany and they just took a piece of UGC and put the logo on it. Looks like shit. It's like, no, that's your own fault for not giving them the right tools to do that. So really important are the tools and guidelines, giving people that direction constantly.
You got to stick to that plan too, though. You got to review
Yes.
and always go back quarterly and review that plan, both on a
Yes.
P&L and
Yeah.
a marketing standpoint. Because if you don't, you're going to get sideways.
That's
Yeah.
a clarity issue.
And I'm still trying to find the flow with going through spreadsheets. We got to talk about that later.
So I want to try and go back just for a second to the elephant in the room, which is both sore spot. I want to talk about it with utmost respect to the core brands that are here in the room that have built, basically made this whole industry possible, and try and provide some value in how do we respectfully connect an endemic core community with mainstream in a way that benefits both parties, that benefits the mainstream because you have a great set of ideas, and how can you help those ideas be shared at a broader scale, and how do you protect, if you will, your baby, which is your roots. So it's a very, very raw subject, and that's one of the reasons I think we should talk about it a little bit. So I wanted to invite in this next segment a little bit of discussion between the folks that are on the stage and you all out there in the audience. Anybody willing to start by asking a question about this, because it's a heavy topic? Perfect.
Food coma.
Nobody. It's either a food coma or nobody wants to touch it with a 10-foot pole, which is probably a little bit of both. So we talked a little bit about how if you're staying true to the same activities that you did back then does it make it okay for you to be worth $2.5 billion? Did anybody in this room get pissed off when they heard that GoPro had taken investment from Foxconn and had a $2.5 billion valuation? Anybody here upset? Okay. That's very surprising to me. You got a hand up?
Yep.
There was one? Where was it? I didn't see it. Yeah, I think that arm got cut off by his neighbor right now. So So I think if we talk about it in that context, so what specifically was it that made it okay for GoPro to be successful, aka selling out, and still have everybody in this core community love them? Tell me.
It's like the perfect blend between a lifestyle brand and the actual device that captures the content. It's different, you know. We're used. It's everybody's camera, right? I mean, anybody can use it in any way they want, and we've been fortunate to have. I mean, it's a great product. First of all, you know, we're proud of the image quality and what it can do, and the versatility. But it's truly one of those brands that you know, professional users are using it. We're not even. I turned on the TV the other night. We're on Miss America. Miss America's walking around with the camera, going. I don't know what she was saying. I was just
Say
like,
hi to
oh my
my
God,
GoPro.
we're on Miss America.
Because you didn't care.
It wasn't, yeah, and then you know, we.
Why were you watching Miss America?
Well, I was flipping through channels.
Yeah, all right.
But then you know, the producers from Monday Night Football call us back, and they say, "Hey, you guys shoot really cool video. Would you guys mind coming out and working with John Gruden and shooting some content for Monday Night Football?" So we said, sure. And next thing you know, we've got segments of Monday Night Football, and I got people calling like, "How much do you pay for that?" Nothing. We didn't. You know, it's just we have a good product. We have a team of professionals that can show how to use this camera better than anybody, and we'll go out and work with them. And so authenticity.
Sure.
And that goes for football, it goes for surfing, it goes for anything. It's about it. We nailed it when we took the camera from here, and you've heard Nick say that, and we went like this.
Yep.
Because it was like, check me out now, right? You said you skied that line, show it to me. You say you caught that big fish, show it to me. Right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I answered the question.
No, you
Well,
did.
I mean, I'll add, to me, when I look at this big picture, I think everyone in this room has one overriding objective, and that's to put more bodies on that hill this winter. It should be all in alignment. And when somebody comes along with new technology that enhances the sport, adds value to the sport, you know, builds content out, gets more eyeballs on it, it's a win for everybody. It's a win for everybody in this room. So there really shouldn't be any haters in the room.
So forgive me for being Maury Povich for a second here. But I don't think it's everybody's goal to get more people on that hill in here, because I think there's a limited sum mentality that in part is found within endemic industries that says, if I'm getting this, I don't, like, as soon as somebody else gets this, and I lose a little something here. So I would question, and I would look for some feedback from anybody on the panel or from anybody out there. Are you more bummed when the Tourons take over Aspen during the week of the holiday week? I think probably a lot of people are. He's coughing it up right now. He's nodding and saying yes. What's that?
No, well, I think it's like you guys are talking about the brand. I mean, there are some older schools in terms of brand philosophy where keep the brand tight and really police it.
Mhm.
There has to be a certain level of that. But I think that the reason why no one is ready to tee off on LP is they've done a really good job of personalizing the brand. And really, the GoPro brand is reflected in their users.
Yeah.
They don't really have to police their brand. I mean, in terms of certain guidelines and logos and all that standards, yes. But they've gone beyond that through that personalization process. And that's why people will give them a pass on it. Like, if you had someone up here from a big corporate American company that perhaps had sold out and we all thought that they were a bunch of wankers, the sentiment might be very different. But they've done a very good job of both, you know, becoming extremely successful, aka sellouts, while remaining core. And so it's that personalization. But as far as the hill goes up here, yeah, I mean, you know, people complain that it's more crowded, but that allows us to live here. So,
Right.
I mean, we're talking about
This is the
annoyance
paradox
versus
that I'm straight.
someone who lives here for years. Yeah, we'll take a couple busy weeks, and we'll take a couple more.
Got it.
Because that's what's going to keep the whole wheel spinning.
Got it. Some back there? What's that? Can you say that again?
So there's a lot of people in the industry that don't get that exact point, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the whole elephant in the room thing.
And just making fun of all the Torons and all that. It's not helping anyone really.
Right, and I think we should consider Jim's point, which is it our goal? Are we aligned? If we're not, should we be aligned in that goal? Because, as Penn said, couple more weeks makes it so that we can live here. Saw a hand up over there.
What are examples of brands that sold out, quote unquote, that it was a bad business decision?
Anybody
Do you have any good examples?
sold out? So you qualified that at the end there. It was a brand that sold out that was a bad.
Where people would say they're a sellout brand, but it actually ended up being a bad business decision, and the business failed or just
Got it.
or didn't thrive.
What would be a good example? Go for it.
Airwalk.
There you go.
Well,
OP.
that's like the same all the time.
Gotcha.
Way too big, way too quick, and they just blew it all out. But you look at a bunch of clothing brands now. Look at LRG. I mean, they're in Macy's, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was one of the coolest, coolest streetwear brands.
Yeah.
To come around in a long time.
Yeah, so I can speak on that. So when I first went in, we were kind of running an analysis on where the business was going and stuff, and we were doing about $22 million in false business and false partnerships, where I call it, like it's Berlin Coat Factory, it's Macy's, it was bullshit business, and it was destroying your business already. So we right away in that first 6 months took out $20+ million in business. And we had to go to our board, the private capital investment company, explain why we're doing this. Here's the process. So we were really under a microscope after that to take all that away. And then within those 4 years, rebuilt the brand and got the growth because of what we did. So you have to take those huge risks, ballsy risk, if you really truly believe in your brand and stay true to core to who you are. But I think one thing we miss here is that what we do is we provide experiences in winter sports, and we're venturing out as a brand with a premium beer company like Carlsberg, one of the third largest global beer company in the world, and Audi of America as well. We're providing experiences with consumers that look at us like, fuck, that's amazing, but I'm super intimidated by what you guys do on the mountains. So we bring the Stoke on the Slopes with Carlsberg. They reach way more people than we can ever possibly imagine, and bringing them to the mountain for this experience, take that content, and they send it out globally, worldwide, in front of millions of people, and they're getting interest in the mountain again. And we have to keep exploring and live less in our world and really just venture out, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, you hit on something that sparked another thought, which is, I've talked a little bit about this at other conferences, which is, the similarity between GoPro and Red Bull is we deliver experiences, and our customers talk about those, not us. Customers drive those, and experiences can be so many different things. And our experience that we deliver is amazing video through user-generated content. That's the best marketing vehicle we have. With Red Bull, I would say it was creating these amazing events and amazing athlete programs.
Well, yeah, but it was channeled through the athlete,
Right.
like Chris of the world,
Yep.
who bought into it and were able to activate through your vision, your goals, your dream. You know what I mean? Which gave it.
In a way, it's very similar to what GoPro is doing. They're reflecting, as Penn said, the brand back for their peers and friends and whatnot to celebrate, and that's sort of what Red Bull did through their athletes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting topic because you build those moments of engagement with a consumer, whether it's through video, whether it's through handing them a can of Red Bull and explaining what it means and what it can do for you and the benefits, or throwing a great event. Or, and you think about experiences like when we have media out to events at Red Bull, like MotoGP, I'll never forget, and we talked about this is going to be the year of little details. Let's focus on little details. We're nailing all the advertising. We're nailing all the big stuff, the banners on courses and all this. But when the media showed up, a lot of them, we brought in their media from the motorcycle industry. They showed up on their motorcycles, and we give them a little kickstand plate. that they could put their kickstand down so it didn't get dirty. And it was kind of one of these funny things, and it became like the talk of the day. Like, did you get one of those kickstand deals? You know? And it's so small, but it's all the way to like when people, the media or the athletes would show up to events. We always really took care of you guys. And we took a lot of pride in that and making sure that transportation, the communication, you know, the meals, the just take care of these people. The media and the athletes were, you know, very important. Still are, obviously.
Fantastic. Yep. Question or comment?
There's a life cycle of brands. What about some of these people that have climbed to the top for their brand? What if they have an incident which goes and damages it, that goes and causes it to lose authenticity, or there's an athlete that gets in trouble? You've got to go climb back to the top, which, you know, we've got an example over there. How would each of the panelists handle a situation like that?
I mean, I can speak to Red Bull. And
Fantastic question, I'll say, because I think that's when everyone's worried about controlling their brand. Some shit's gonna hit some fan at some point, right? And what's sort of rule number one? And so how do you mitigate or protect that? So I think that's a great question.
No, it is a great question, and I can tell you, like, for example, with Red Bull, while I was there, I think we were managing about 150 athletes at the time, and I can tell you, all these guys didn't walk the straight and narrow line. A lot of them got into a lot of trouble, but they, as a brand, we chose to be partners with them. And so when they did get into trouble, we stuck with them. And ultimately, because we didn't just throw them to the curb and say, oh, go away, because we stuck with them and supported them through the hard times, we actually gained a lot of respect and support through the different scenes and communities, and took that path instead of, oh, this guy, you know, he's in jail and he's a troublemaker. Let's get rid of him and bring on this guy. And it worked out great for us.
So the few times that you saw that there were real missteps,
Right.
like, is the plan?
Take ownership of your misstep.
Okay, that's what's the plan there? Is it the brand is bigger than any one mistake, and so that you guys had a plan in place to just own it and then move on? What was the?
Basically, yeah, exactly. Own your mistake, you know, and then correct it. Learn from your mistake and correct it.
Any specifics?
It's just, you know,
LP?
the one thing we always live by right now at GoPro is just be real. You know, if you look, you go through life, you're an individual, you make mistakes. Brands make mistakes. And as long as you can be real and communicate with your consumers and let them know, like, we screwed up. Here's the fix. Sorry.
What's the example at GoPro?
Oh.
What's an example at GoPro?
An example at GoPro would probably be our
Firmware.
Our firmware. It's complicated. We released the camera. We released a camera that was more powerful than most computers could handle. It was in some cases more powerful than the SanDisk card could handle, and we just communicated with our audience and said, you know, we're sorry, we're gonna fix this. We're gonna have a new firmware update. Stand by. And we got, you know, up until then, we were getting people like, hey, what's going on, you guys? Our negative sentiment, you know, was up. And so it was like, we gotta communicate with our people. It's all about our customer.
Great. And then what about you guys?
We made wetsuits. Apparently there's a lot of surf in Boulder, Colorado. Yeah, we made footwear, worked about as well as Oakley footwear. The people at senior level just got lost. And the original founder gave it to the kids, and it just went all over the place.
How did you reconcile?
Clean house. Yeah, you know, that you got a capital investment company behind it, and that's their portfolio, and they're looking at, like, what you guys doing?
Yeah.
And I wasn't part of that process, but they needed to go in and shake the tree a little bit, get back in line.
Got it. Good advice. Other questions? We got about 3-4 minutes left, so yeah, my man.
I got one to kind of build on that same topic. So you guys all represent brands that do a nice balance of matching brand with athlete effort and accomplishment. And, you know, some brands I've seen over time will tend to sit behind their athletes and totally let them drive the entire brand, which can be difficult at times with some of the things we just mentioned. curious how you guys keep that balance and make sure that you're providing as much equity into your brand and innovation and thinking to the brand itself, even above the products you make, so that your athletes aren't doing all the work for you, but it's a match.
I can.
Go for it. Audio guy is dying.
Chris Davenport's a great example. Drives the White Spider collection for us. It was a collection we never even had. Dav and I have got some good history with each other. Knew the guy, knew what he wanted, wasn't getting it, listened, and that's just exactly what it is. It's listening to the athletes and getting them involved and letting them take the lead and really, truly getting it. And if you don't get it, then you find the person or the designer that totally understands this guy. You know, and they're the most complex people to deal with and sometimes a pain in the ass, but the turnaround is amazing. And he's a team player. I mean, this guy it's not just about, hey, I ride for Spider, we're cutting him a check. It's like the guy contributes. You jump on the phone and he's on it. And he'll go and he'll represent your brand at all levels. And he takes a very professional approach to things. And that's the problem that you see in a lot of younger athletes is like, cut me the check and I'll bro-bra it and that's it, I'm out. That's bullshit. You got to get involved with the company.
Yeah, I'd echo that till the day is long. You know, they're Davenport, you're gonna get so many kudos, dude, sorry. But, you know, the Davenports, the Darren Rolfs, the Robbie Nashes, were all guys that it's like, that's the benchmark. Because these guys, they're professional when they show up, they're highly organized, they're incredible at what they do, they're great with media, they're great people, they're family guy, like, you just know when you got a great athlete, and then working with them and letting them show you the way, to Jim's point, and rallying behind that stuff and activating, critical. And then, you know, you can do all your other things, but athletes and sports sponsorship it's just the foundation for, in my opinion, I'm so hyper on it, I love it, but it's like, it's a foundation for any brand. If you don't have that foundation of amazing people and opinion leaders that genuinely love you and want to work with you every day to help build your brand, you have nothing to build from. So you need that strong foundation of people to help you build on top of that, right? So.
Yeah.
And what we talked about earlier too is, particularly in today's day and age, there's a lot of turnover. And when you bring in person A to take over person B who just left, that foundation isn't there. They're going to impose their way onto the brand, and that's what spins brands into the wrong direction, and it confuses the consumer. And basically, you know, if I get run over by a bus tomorrow, we have to have systems in place that next thing I can come in and take where I left off and roll with it. Doesn't mean they can't, you know, put some of their personality stamp in there, but there should be enough.
Yeah, that's where you talk about the blueprint and the stuff and having
Right.
it well, clearly articulated and communicated.
Well, and not backing down to the board members who are like, I can't get the ROI on these athletes. I don't understand it. And you're like, you're never going to see, I can't explain how valuable it is when a Chris Davenport walks in and says, this is my ski town. Why are you selling that camera here? You know, like, or when it was Red Bull and it was McConkey calling us from wherever he was going, dude, they just served me Rockstar and I asked for a Red Bull and I'm, you know, and I called the manager and he can't pay for that. There's your ROI. It's passion.
Well said. We got time for one more wrap-up question. Anything out there? Please join me in a round of applause for these guys.
All right. Thank you all for these